cast, literally. G'day guys, welcome back to another episode. Today I'm going to teach you guys how to catch squid, teach you guys all the tips and techniques that I've used over the last couple of years to be successful in the squid, the locations, the types of gear that I use, and the times of the day that I love to fish for them. So here we go. Sit back and relax and enjoy this video. Take along for a ride. I'll just explain to you the setup that I've got today. I've got a Daiwa RevRos 702 LFS, which is a 2 to 5 kilo setup, made for, I guess, bigger plastics in the river. I like to use this as my like 1/6, quarter ounce, 3/8 of an ounce sort of rod and reel combo that I use in the river for those bigger soft plastics that I like to use in there. But also I really love throwing it with a squid jig on as well, so it's sort of versatile. Got two different uses. I've got the Daiwa Crossfire 2500 reel. I've got 6 pound braid, probably should have 8, but I've got 6 pound on it at the moment. When I re-spool, I'll probably go to 8. And I've got 10 pound leader on as well, tied onto a 3/0 size squid jig. 3/0 size. I really like that 3/0 size. I don't know, I've always fished with it, so I kind of feel comfortable with it, the size and the weight of it, fishing in all different types of depths, whether that be less than 4 meters and all the way up to 8-9 meters. I've always just been comfortable with that. I know there's heavier ones that you can use, and certainly go for it. But just for me personally, I'm comfortable with that 3/0 size. So yeah, that's the gear that we're using today. First fish of the morning, first cast, literally. It's a good squid. With squid, you gotta have a very light drag. You want them to be, you want to feel weight, but you don't want them to pull away from you and not have drag come away. First cast of the morning, literally, and we've got a squid. When you're netting squid, you want to net them from behind, not head first. Because remember, they swim away from you. So if you can net them from behind, they'll go straight into your net, like that. Bang, squid first cast, how good is that? Let's put that on spot lock for a second. Have a look at this, first cast. Bang, beautiful squid, first cast of the morning. Such a cool fish, such a beautiful fish, hey. So cool. Smack that little pink squid jig that I've got on. Absolutely hammered it. But yeah, first one of the morning. All right, let's get this jig out, put him in the live bait tank. Bit of weed that time. If you're not in the weed, or you're not getting weed every second or third cast, then you're not in the right zone, because the squid will sit in the weed or just above it. So if your squid jig's not getting any weed on it, one, you might be in the wrong area where there's no weed, or not the right structure, or not letting it sink down enough. Yep, another one. Third cast now. Second cast got weed on it. Third cast, squid. Once again, net them from behind. Let him swim into it. Let all the ink come out. I always leave the net over the side for a good 30-45 seconds. Just to let any other ink that he's got go out. And hopefully you don't get any in your boat. Bit of a smaller model compared to the last one, but still a really nice fish. Should I say cephalopod? Perfect little fish, or cephalopod. Really enjoy keeping these guys for a feed. There's no size limit and all that sort of stuff, but this is probably my favorite eating in the ocean is squid. One, because pretty much 95% of it you can eat. And the other 5%, the squid head, is a really, really good bait to use as well. So yeah, versatile fish, really resourceful, easy to catch, I reckon. Some days not, but yeah, squid number 2. So this is another thing that I guess is personal preference, or something that I've learned over time. A lot of the people like to, once they catch that squid, press spot lock because they school up. Yeah, they do. 100% they school up in a certain area or spot. Whenever I've done that and spot locked on the motor and stuff like that, I've found it really hard to then continuously catch them. I don't know whether it's my techniques when I'm spot locking sort of fishing and all that sort of stuff. Probably it could be me, but what I like to do is, obviously, whenever I've hooked onto one, I'll spot lock straight away while I'm fighting the fish. So it sort of stops the drift in its tracks, and then I can then cast again in that area and hopefully get 2 or 3 in a drift. But if you don't have a motor like that, or you don't, I wouldn't be putting out like an anchor or anything like that. I'd just be drifting. Is doing what I do, is I just drift the areas the whole time. I'll spot lock once I hook up to one, but I'll drift the areas the whole time, just in case. You never know, you might find a bigger patch and you're stuck on that, just that one patch of squid. You might find some better ones lying around somewhere else. So I'll do my drift and then I'll motor back to the start again and just make sure I'm casting in those areas where I've caught them, rather than just spot locking and then casting over there and all that sort of stuff. I feel like drifting, I get more squid. All right, guess the next thing that we should talk about is the retrieve and stuff. So what you want to do is cast as far as you can in the direction that you're heading with your boat. So I'm lucky I'm using my electric motor with a heading. So I'm making it head towards a certain direction and it just slowly creeps us that way. So I keep casting in that direction or fanning it left and right of that direction. If you're not lucky enough to have electric motor, you can just drift and figure out whichever way you're drifting. So if I'm drifting towards the camera, towards the screen that you guys are looking at, I'm going to cast straight over the screen and let the lure come back towards the boat. You don't want to cast in the opposite direction and let the lure go further away from the boat. It won't sink properly. So yeah, first things first, you got to give it plenty of time to sink. Having a sounder helps because then you know roughly what the depth is. So we're in about 6 meters of water here. I normally will give that probably 30 to 45 seconds to sink all the way down, and then give it a couple of hops. Some people like to do heaps of hops. Some people do 1 hop, 2 hops, whatever your preference is. I've just always done 2 semi-aggressive hops. You don't want to do too much, like, you don't want your hops to be too aggressive because you can always rip a tentacle. And a lot of times, you know, if your retrieve's too rough is when you come back with just the tentacle. So you got to find that balance between hopping that squid jig all the way up and also being able to hook onto that squid also at the same time. So I use double hops with lots and lots of pauses in between my hits. Very sort of similar to the way you would fish a plastic in the river, but just longer pauses to let that really sink back down, because you never know at the start and you might not have let enough time for it to sink down in front of the weed. And again, if you don't come back with weed on your squid jig every couple casts, then you're not really letting it sink enough. So that's another indicator for you guys. So plenty of time to sink. Double twitches, triple twitches, 1 twitch, it doesn't really matter. As long as you make your squid jig look like a prawn that's skipping out of the weeds, you'll be fine. And the squid will hammer it regardless. So that's the retrieve for you guys to use. You can use it anywhere. You can use it off the rocks, use it in the boat, off a kayak, whatever. Another squid. So again, spot lock on the motor, bring the squid in, get the net, make sure you put the net behind the squid, swim straight in, and bang, we got a good squid. only a smaller version, but still a really good squid. So yeah, very happy with that. Another one that's going into the keep tank. I don't release very many squid because one, they taste good, and two, they're really good bait. So most of them that I catch are either going home for a feed or they're getting put on a hook for bait, unless they're really small. But yeah, so cool. All right, next thing I want to talk to you guys about is the ground that squid hang around. So they don't just hang on sand flats with no structure or anything like that. You might occasionally get one or two, but for the majority of the time they hang on kelp and weed beds. Most of the time that sort of stuff is offshore, and, you know, on the shallow beaches and around the rocky outcrops on the inshore areas on the east coast here of Australia. You can also catch some of them inside the river when you find some weed beds and all that sort of stuff inside the river, but I've always found my biggest successes or the most consistent catches have always been out offshore. So I'm just out offshore off Cronulla here around Shelley Beach, Oak Park, just fishing the big expansive weed beds that are along here. I'm fishing from, where am I, 4 meters right now, all the way up to 8 meters of water, and just working my way across all the different weed beds, hard bottom, all that sort of stuff. Any type of reefy, weedy, kelpy stuff is where you're gonna find your squid. Times of the day, I've caught them in the middle of the day, pretty much all throughout the day. But the most sort of, I guess, consistent, or the bite window where you're gonna get more bang for your buck or more squid for the time that you actually spend doing it, is early morning and late afternoon. A lot of people love catching them at night time because that's when they're most active. Yes, they're definitely most active at night time, but me personally, I would rather be at home than be out fishing at night, but that's up to each person. So yeah, nighttime fishing, really good, especially if you've got some underwater lights like I do at the back. Can really attract the squid and bring them closer to the boat to make it really easy for you guys to catch them. But if not, low light periods, early morning, late afternoon are really good also, periods to catch them. So that's a little summarization on, one, the locations and where you need to target them. So you need to target them on weedy, kelpy areas around rocky shorelines, and yeah, times of day being those dusk and dawn times, as well as nighttime fishing is really good for squid. Another little tip is when your retrieve's finished and you're close to the boat, the jetty, whatever area that you're fishing is, don't wind it in really quickly like you would with a plastic or a bait or whatever, just to try and get another cast out. You want to wind it up slowly, because you never know, there could be, a lot of the time the squid will follow your lure for quite a period of time before they actually go and eat it. Especially if you've seen squid follow and then you toss the jig back to them, most of the time they'll actually eat it and you can see them eat it. It's great visual fishing, it's amazing. But it just shows to you, if you slow your retrieve all the way up, you might be able to get that squid to come all the way next to your boat and you see it, you pitch that jig back to them and then you actually will catch them, versus if you wound that really quickly, you just won't have a chance in catching them. They won't even come up, they'll just swim off and go about their business. So another good tip is to wind that up really slowly, watch the jig to make sure there's no squid following it on the way up as well, because you just never know, you might have a whole school behind them, and I've had that before. I've had 3 or 4 followed all the way up, and I've had, me and my wife Taryn, we've just caught one after the other because of it. All right, that's going to do it for today's episode. Quite a few squid caught, which was nice. A nice little morning bite. I fished from about 6 o'clock till 9, a couple of hours, couple of squid. The later on in the morning that we fished, the less the squid were biting, and they really just bit in that first hour and a half. So yeah, something else to learn. Hope you all enjoyed it. I hope you all learned something, and hopefully you can apply it and be successful yourself. Leave a comment if you guys go out to go squid fishing and use these techniques and are successful. It'd be great to hear some stories like that. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a thumbs up if you did. Go to 7 Seas Apparel. They've got their new fishing jersey, which is the one I'm wearing right now, and heaps of other stuff for you guys to use while fishing. So yeah, don't forget to use code Lunatics10 on 7 Seas Apparel. Save yourself 10% off, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace out.